I'd like to call to order the December meeting of the Town of Newbury Human Resources Board. Present today are
Diane Doyle,
John Lucy,
Mark Bleckman,
John Ferrara,
Anthony Antico.
Lynn Chatty.
thank you. Let's just take a moment and formally introduce and welcome Lynn to this board. Thank you again in advance for all the help you'll be providing, all the expertise. That's the subject
No
matter.
pressure there, right?
Lynn sat in front of the select board a few weeks ago.
Gosh, was it just last week?
Two-
It was a couple weeks ago.
Yeah,
Okay.
2 weeks.
And then did your thing down with the town clerk. You've been sworn in.
Yes, yes.
Great.
No
Welcome.
escaping.
Welcome. A welcome addition. This now gives us 6 for the first time in a while,
Uh-huh.
and it will certainly help immensely on those days that 1 or 2 people may not be available, and we can still hold our quorum. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Nice to have you with us.
So I think you've all seen my resume.
Yes.
Okay, and I just moved up to Byfield, maybe 2 months ago. And I've been coming up here periodically, and then finally moved up about 2 months ago. And I've been on boards before and really missed the board work. And I think I mentioned to you, so that's why I'm kind of focusing over here, but I really miss board work. And I was looking on the town website, particularly for trash times, times to drop off trash, and noticed the HR board. And of course, that really piqued my interest. And yeah, I feel like I would really be able to add some value to this board, and just, as I mentioned, Brigham and Mass General Brigham are just bleeding edge human resources, right? And so whatever I can bring to this board, I think might be valuable. So I'm happy to be here, happy that I was, able to make the connection and be brought forward to the select board, to the HR board, and then the select board, and been approved and appointed. So I'm happy to be here.
Wonderful.
Happy to have you. See somebody else's trash is our game.
Yeah.
Well said.
We were going back to Saturday Night Live. Yeah. You have a full second career of it, you really do.
Man.
Sign that man.
Yes.
Okay, our next order of business is to approve the minutes from the prior meeting, which was held on November 22nd. I would ask everyone if they would just take a moment and read through that. Those that were present at that meeting, have you all had a chance to read through?
Yes.
Is there a motion to accept the minutes as written?
Motion?
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next order of business, employee issues. John, anything to report from the PD?
No employee issues per se. We did have actually, I just want to give a little bit of a shout out, some accolades to our fire department and the staff of the PD. We had a medical issue, actually one of our dispatchers, a serious medical issue that went from the hospital, and he actually was treated and released, and he's ready to go back on duty in a matter of days after a pretty significant stroke because of the quick response of the medical team that was there.
This was at the police headquarters?
Yeah, while on duty. So it was, so that happened at our Christmas party. So yeah, everyone happened to be right there, and but the fire department and their medical team and were just phenomenal. So, but yeah, that was just a shout out for that. Other than that,
Fortuitous timing there, huh?
Yeah.
If it has to happen.
Yeah.
So, thank you.
Yeah, that's all about minutes.
It really is seconds. But according to Portsmouth Hospital, every one of the doctors said it's all about the initial, the pre-emergency room response, and he was textbook to it. So
Outstanding.
it was
Thank
great.
you, John. Other than that, no employee issues?
No other employee issues.
Diane, sorry?
No.
Anything we should know about the town hall?
Nothing that I'm aware of, no.
Everything's quiet.
Everything's
Quiet
quiet.
is good.
Quiet is good.
Thank you. Next order of business, personnel actions and job vacancy. John, why don't I turn to you again? I know that you're in the process of doing some recruiting.
Yeah, we actually, we had 2 full-time dispatcher positions that were posted. We were able to fill one of them with one of our reserve dispatchers has moved into that position. She's doing phenomenal. And we still have 1 vacancy we're trying to fill. We did take on, in the process of training, 2 part-time dispatchers right now to help backfill some of the shifts that we have, but we're still looking for that 1 more.
Okay.
Still
You get coverage?
we do have the coverage right now, barely, but we're holding our own. So other than that, yeah. Oh, and we also one of our officers has left for another department, and that vacancy was immediately filled by a candidate we were looking at for a while that is full-time academy trained, and
Right.
so he kind of went right into that position, so we didn't feel any bump in the road on that.
This was an external candidate or somebody on the?
It was an external candidate. We didn't get that. It was already full-time academy trained, which is amazing to have that opportunity, because especially now it's really hard to get with post in the new reform rules and regs. It's tough to get somebody up and running that quickly, and we're going to be losing 2 officers that will be going to the academy, for the full-time academy, until June. So they're going to be leaving next week, actually. So yeah, we're actually the first week in January, but yeah, we're we've got a few things going on. We're holding our own, and good things at the end when they come back out of the academy. We should be.
That's the intention. They come back to us.
They come back to us, and off we go. Yeah.
Great. Okay. But it still leaves you a full complement going forward through the.
Not a full complement, there's a lot of Band-Aids and bubble gum, but that's okay. It's like, at least there's better days in sight. It's better than not having the backfill coming, so.
Right.
We've been there before, we'll do it again.
Okay. Thank you, John. And Diane, last month the DPW mechanic position was filled. That person's in place.
Yep, he started 2 weeks ago.
Great.
Yep.
Anything else happening relative to opening positions or resignations at town hall this month? Or?
No other positions, the only one, just the police. I was going to mention the full-time officer that we brought on, but nothing else that I'm aware of.
Okay, great. Thoughts, questions from over here? No? Okay. Next order of business, workplace/discrimination/ethics issues. Just for Lynn's benefit, Lynn, for many years, we had as an agenda item discrimination and/or ethics issues. And we felt just a couple months ago that that probably wasn't a broad enough or encompassing enough topic, and so we added workplace issues to discrimination ethics, so that should any issue come up in the workplace that was brought to us by an employee of any type that didn't fall into the bucket of discrimination or ethics, but we still needed to address it, would be available under that topic. So that's why we broadened it. But fortunately, they're rare. We haven't, I can't remember when the last time was we had something in this category, which is a good thing. And hopefully it'll stay that way. So, right?
Yes.
Okay. Safety issues.
None for me.
Yeah, I'm aware of.
We'll talk about COVID a little bit, how, if at all, that might be influencing thinking going forward, or is that?
It's actually, there's really nothing to talk about. It's the same status quo as far as the precautions.
Yeah.
Do what you're comfortable with. This the home testing is encouraged. It's also understood that it's very hard to get those tests now. I mean, they're flying off the shelves, but hopefully that's gonna, there's gonna be a tide of them coming in, and
right.
And that'll start to not be the case. We do have, I don't know if this is, I'll put this plug in there. MEMA, Massachusetts Emergency Management Agency, has distributed to certain communities home test kits to be distributed to the target recipients are people of lesser means, elderly, and also families falling into federal poverty standards. So we're advertising as much as we can, in as many forms as we can, through Council on Aging and postings on the websites and Facebook, that they are available at the police station right now to just come and just
Right.
declare that you need them and you get them. So as many people, we'd like to have them leaving the station and being put to use where they need to be used. And the main idea of it is through the holiday season and through the cold and flu season, that we're transitioning into now, people will be able to use that added precaution of making sure that they're not inflicted before they go out to to the populace or attend parties and that sort of a thing. So. So other than that, no. I mean, as far as all the the protocols, that they stay the same.
Right. I'm curious, the COVID response team, yourself, Tracy, and the health agent?
The health agent and the fire chief.
And the fire chief, okay.
Yeah.
And is there any preliminary discussion about Omicron and whether, inside masking might be appropriate in town hall?
We're following what the recommendations are, the precautions put forward, on a federal level and at the state
Right.
level. That's our guidance. There's nothing more to be said other than that. They're setting the, and they're very, very well televised. We only meet when we just had a meeting recently when these home tests came in too. We meet when there's something to discuss and an action to be taken now. It's not a weekly thing.
Right.
Which is a good thing because we haven't been having to meet a lot. That means it's pretty much leveling out. And Newbury's been phenomenal too. The numbers have consistently been very, very low. The last check I think was last week. I think it was 27 total new cases in a 2-week period. And that's just like that doesn't even click on the radar. So we're doing really well where other communities are not enjoying such a success.
It's probably one of the very few times that that Newbury's fortunate not to have much of a commercial base.
Yeah.
There's not a lot of mixing and matching and like there is in downtown Newbury, restaurants.
Right.
And shopping and all, so.
Outdoor community, hard to get exposed.
Yeah.
Right.
Everybody I know that's been struck by COVID-19 has attended a basketball game with the Celtics or the hockey
Right.
rink.
Yep.
I mean, just bizarre that those outfits they're clamoring to bring revenues on top again. And there's no restriction as to how many people come through the door.
All right.
And it's an indoor sport.
I just had a question, John, on the passing out of these test kits, et cetera. I understand that Washington, some group within that arena will be sending them out, mailing them, as a matter of fact, to everybody. Have you heard about that one?
I don't. I know at a state level, certain states. I know New Hampshire has. I've heard nothing substantiated, but I've heard that there's a lot of discussion about that. So the discussion's been we got to get these tests into the houses, the homes, and to stop having people stop policing themselves, and being proactive themselves, which makes all the sense in the world to me. It's especially as we're just like I said transitioning into the cold and flu season where it can be masked and people get I don't really I get this cold every year about this time because the symptoms are very, very close with the Omicron as the common cold, and so you really want to make that distinction as early as possible before you get out to the public.
Thank you. Nothing in town hall?
Well, I would just add that the protocols in place that you've put up for the last month or two, we've had people that don't feel well, and we say stay home. And so there have been a few people that have followed that guidance, and it's been relatively calm.
Mhm.
We haven't really seen much, but we've had a couple people that haven't felt well and they've been out to be cautious. So
Thank you.
protocols seem to be finally sort of settling in. If you're not feeling well, stay home.
Then any thoughts there relative to what you're seeing in your workplace, or any guidance or recommendations, or?
You hesitate to bring it up, but how are we paying these people that are staying home just because they don't feel good?
So they have the option under the COVID, extended benefits that are available. So they have the option, they can use their sick time, which they have, or they can opt to have the town apply for the $850 per week benefit. But with that comes added documentation and application, they have to
Sure.
apply for it. We haven't had anyone yet that's taken that. I mean, we have a very lucrative sick time policy here. We get 120, for full-time employees, they get 120 hours of sick time a year.
Oh, okay.
So they get quite a
That's
lucrative
a lot, yeah.
sick time. So most people have just used their sick time. It's encouraged that if you are sick, you use the time that's available to you. However, if you're not sick, it's meant to be banked because you can roll it over from year to year, so that if you do have, something where you're out for 2 or 3 weeks, you have that benefit available to you. So we are monitoring, we've got signage downstairs. People want to apply for that $850, up to 40 hours, depending upon what your work week is. But no one has, pretty much everyone's just used their sick time available to them because of, I think, just convenience and the fact that they have it.
Okay, thank you.
Good.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. In other business, can we talk a little bit about the personal policy update?
Yes, so I can have a couple things. So personal policy update, as I've mentioned for the last couple meetings, Lynn, we did in March of 2019, we did an extensive, we drafted and revised an extensive personnel policy manual. It's 69 pages long. It was taken out of the bylaws, and we basically put together a comprehensive document for new employees that come on board, and we give it to them and they acknowledge that they've received it. So as you can imagine, here we are almost 3 years later. There have been some case precedents, there have been some changes that would need to be made to that document, which were presented to town council approximately 2 to 3 months ago.
Right.
They have been backed up because they've lost some staff and so forth. So I did have the opportunity to talk with town council on the 13th. She had office hours and we connected. She said that it is in draft format. She was going to, on the 13th, look to see what the expected date of completion was. I had not heard from her, so I emailed her today, and she is out of the office because of the holidays, so she'll be
Well, it's
tomorrow.
moving along at least.
But
It's
she
kept the draft form.
acknowledged that they have completed their draft.
Good.
With some of the case precedent and language changes and so forth. So I will follow up. It looks like she's in tomorrow. I'll follow up again, and
Okay.
hopefully by the next meeting we
Right.
can get this
And
moved
refresh
along.
my memory, what will our requirement be once we see that draft document?
So once we receive the draft document with the identified changes, we would review those changes and acknowledge that that would be presented to the Board of
To the-
Selectmen.
To the select board,
So
okay.
we would take a vote, I guess,
Yeah.
to present it to the Board of Selectmen for acceptance.
Good,
So I'm optimistically hopeful that we will have it for
Right.
next meeting.
okay.
Moving
along at least.
Yes, so in conjunction with John for the website organizational chart, I did have a chance to talk with Matt today, our IT director. So we are we're trying to come up with an organizational chart that would sit hopefully on the town's website that would not only, it would actually augment the individual pages of each department, but it would show the structure of how the departments fit together and who reports to who and so forth. So we've been working on this for a few months, and I did have a chance to follow up with Matt today. And he said that the town's website software cannot accommodate an interactive org chart, so that they would not be able to give us some sort of licensure through, what's the name of the website?
It's
The virtual net or something?
virtual town hall.
Yes, virtual town. So there is not an interactive option. However, what he suggested was that we could do an organizational chart that would be a PDF document. It would be a Word document. Basically, it would just be the draft of the org chart. And within the org chart, if you clicked on, I think this was what you were talking about, if you clicked on treasurer collector, it would link, there would be a link that would take you to that page, much in the way when we sent out the agendas for our meetings, and it was a Zoom link, and you click on it, it would take you right to Zoom. Or he's also aware that there is an organizational chart software, which is very inexpensive and easy to update, and he said that that may be something we might want to consider because it can be easily managed off of our website. So as updates happen, we can easily update them. So I will have a draft, I guess Julie, we have a draft of the organizational chart, which I will present for the next meeting. And in the meantime, we will continue to explore these two options. And hopefully in January's meeting, we'll have at least a jumping off point to figure out how we want to get this accomplished.
Just to refresh everyone's memory and to help Lynn get up to speed on this, this is something that we started to kick around 4 or 5 months ago, thinking that it would be a tool that the public would use to be able to identify resources within the town hall organizational structure. I think most lay people are unaware of where they might want to go for this or that. And so this would be a way that the public could have access to, click a button, get linked to a page, whether it's the Human Resources Board, the Treasurer's Office, the Planning Board, whatever it might be. And each, as I recall, each of the clicks you could do on a title would give you just a kind of a bare bones description. This person is responsible for X, Y, and Z. And should any of the citizenry want to connect on any of those matters, they would know where to go. For those that can navigate an organizational chart at least. So and we felt that this would be a tool that not only Town Hall would use, but in a broader sense, the public in general. So
Have we seen this on other town websites?
there are org charts. Is that what you're asking?
Yes.
Oh yeah, there are rudimentary org charts. I haven't looked to see how interactive they are and whether
just
they
curious.
Connect to other pages. But I think most towns have, I shouldn't say most, many towns do have just a rudimentary page set up. This is the org chart. But I think we're talking about doing something a little bit more proactive than that.
Good, good.
We pulled
We
it.
like to set the bar.
We did drill down 2 or 3 years ago, found some like-size townships that have, I'll try and find those elements and forward them to you. They were very, very carefully done, very well done. I mean, the police department site is probably the most comprehensive one in the village of Newbury. And it's actually quite friendly and allows you to maneuver and get services done and done with some ease. It's intuitive and it's well put together. But we need to find something that's universal.
Right. Okay, so now we have our marching orders from Matt.
So John and I will circle back with Matt, and we will, I guess there is a quasi-draft available, and it's just a question of whether we want to do it as a PDF Word document that sits on the website with hyperlinks, or if we would explore one of these org chart software companies. And he said they are very inexpensive, but he said there might be some benefit to going that route.
Okay. Any
So-
thoughts on that?
It'd be fun to look at what is out there.
Yeah,
Find out what the big boys are doing.
and I don't know on the first option with the PDF Word document with the hyperlinks if you'd be able to have two, so in other words, you click on the link and it gives you a list and then it would link you to the
Yeah.
page. I think it's strictly gonna go from one to the page.
Right,
So-
so what it would be is it would go from one PDF link, if it's a breakdown from that point, now you have 2 other PDFs.
Right.
You'll keep on, the PDFs, especially if it's gonna be a living, breathing thing, is something I do not recommend. It's very
Cumbersome.
one and done.
Yeah.
And so, but this software, and I know the software, one of the softwares he's talking about, we used it years ago. He had mentioned, I forget what it didn't give the name, but anyway, that's much more changeable, and that's what you want. It's
Right.
people move, people's assignments get different, and you want to make it very easy. And there's no real cause and effect either with the PDS. If you change one thing, you don't know what else is changing down the
Right.
line.
Right.
So it's.
I think just as long as we bear in mind what the user population is, who the user population
Right.
is in town, and make it user-friendly as best we can, so, okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
And then the last thing that he mentioned to me was that, Matt, that he has the ability to set up a generic email for the HR board, as opposed to you utilizing your personal email. So if that's something that you want to explore, he did it for the, I think it was the Board of Selectmen. So there's a generic email that is set for the HR board,
Right.
and I think he said he can link it so that you're just not using your personal
Sure.
email.
So when I send an email to the select board, does each and every member of that select board receive that, or does it come through a filter?
I think they used to. Now, I think, correct me if I'm wrong, each member of the select board has his or her own email.
Okay.
Now, sending it to Julie, the executive administrator of the select board, she in turn can certainly distribute that out to the rest of them. But I think if you're trying to reach Jeff Walker, I think it's now, gwalker@.
I believe so.
Is there, excuse me, is there a general, I want to send something to the select board as a board?
Yep,
Is there some address that,
there is.
that
Select
literally
board
would make
There
it
is.
go to every
And it
individual?
And it
Is
goes
that
to
what you're
Julie's
saying?
desk. Yep,
Okay,
yep. And if you want to send one individually to the
Right.
members, they have their own.
you can do that too.
Yeah.
But it all lands on one desk in this building and doesn't go to the individuals, does it?
Unless it's set up as a rule to do that, I mean, it can be easily set up to distribute, but like that, the planning
Yeah.
board goes right, it's planning.
That was a hot button item
Yeah.
in the select board a number of months ago,
Yes.
and it got squared away.
Right.
And town of Redondo, that goes to
To all of them.
Martha.
Yeah. As back to your original point, as it relates to my email, the good news is, in many years as acting as chair of this board, I think I've received one email relative to HR board matters, and it was benign. So I'm perfectly fine with leaving it as is, unless the board feels that that's not appropriate. I'm amenable either way. If you want to change it to a generic HR board email, I'm more than happy to.
I will add that the reason why Matt brought it up is because if there is an issue that has to have discovery and your email is
Yeah, I was just
part
gonna
of
say,
the issue, then your entire email could be.
Okay, let's get it off.
So your computer is locked out.
So,
That's an easy decision.
again, not that it's been an issue for 10 years,
Yeah.
but he brought it up that,
That's a good
as
point.
we were going over things, he said, please, you might want to consider.
Yeah,
Most of the emails come from me to all of the board for agendas and minutes and so
Right.
forth, but if there were to be something that was sent to you and it was your personal email, it
Yeah.
would be scrutinized for safety.
it's a good catch, and yeah, frankly, all kidding aside, it would probably be more appropriate to have a generic HR board email.
Okay.
So should I talk to Matt
Well,
about that?
I can follow up with him, and if it involves,
Okay,
setting
have
up.
him contact me,
Okay.
and whatever, yeah, that's probably a good decision.
Who would receive that email inbox?
I think that's what we have to, he mentioned it today, I don't
Okay.
know the specifics of, does it all go to Mark, and then does he distribute it, is Mark the only one, does everybody have access,
Okay.
I think that's what we have to work out the details, but,
There was an issue many months ago when I wrote a strong letter not to go on a search for your position, that we had the perfect continuity from Chief Murray on down to your old boss and down to you and then Patty. And I sent that out to the generic number, select board, and 2 members didn't receive it, and one of them went ballistic. And so that's a sense that if it goes into a central location, it needs to be distributed. And
Well, let's just clarify that then, because again, the only one email I think I ever received was directed to me, not to the HR board. But that said, I would think that any correspondence that comes to the HR board and it comes to a generic email, and if I have access to that, my immediate next action is to send it to the rest of you, because it's addressed to the HR board, not to me directly, correct?
Or just by setting up, he can set it up that anything that comes in there automatically. is sent to the
Automatically,
board.
yeah, so
That's
that's
what
the
I got.
details of which we need to work out, but he brought up the, discovery piece, that if something were to go
Yep.
to you, your
Okay.
entire email would be. So we'll work through that. And I think the last thing was, it made me think that we should probably just update, especially with the addition of Lynn, phone numbers and emails, so that amongst ourselves,
Yep.
to be able to, I know certain people have certain people's emails and phone numbers, but just if after the meeting, when we close the meeting, if we could just
Sure.
update the list. And we can
Okay.
distribute it amongst
Good.
ourselves.
Thank you.
Okay.
There might be an occasion where it's something that would go to the HR board might be so sensitive that it wouldn't automatically be distributed, right? And so I think that all of these things, as we're looking at this next step, things to consider.
Right. Well, we'll
I'm
take-
just thinking, in my history, what has ever happened, right?
Yeah.
And a couple of times things have come in so sensitively that you want to just kind of manage the flow of information.
well, we'll take it. Thank you.
Yep.
We're good on that?
Careful steps.
Yep. Okay, thank you.
All right.
That takes care of other business?
That's it.
Anything else?
Oh, a question for Diane. You were talking that apparently the town council has finished their review or updating
So
certain areas.
I had a conversation with Lisa Mead, and Alex in her office is the one that's conducting, because they're more of the employee relations part of the firm.
Okay.
So she was going to follow up to see where that draft was, and then she was gonna get back to me, and it's been a couple.
Right, so my question centers on the role of the HR board when that draft comes in. I mean, I presume it's going to be more ministerial. We're not going to sit down and look at something and say, oh, no, I don't like that, that's wrong. This is coming from town council, right?
Yeah, so what happened was, I became aware of some case precedent, issues that were in conflict with the personnel policy. They were also, I read the document twice again, and came up with things that I thought needed clarification. So they are procedural in nature or case precedent in nature. So they're not necessarily things that we would discuss and possibly change.
Mm.
It's just, these are the changes that are being made and this is why, and, does that answer your question?
Yeah, okay, yeah.
So it's not really, we're not gonna be in weeks of subcommittees
Yeah.
as we were reading line by line by line, but there were things that came up, some even spelling things or procedural things, just things that have come up in the last 2 years
Right.
in basically applying that personnel document.
Right, and these will be redlined.
Yes,
so-
yes.
Right.
So one thing in particular I can say is, for example, we had that whole discussion about when the offices close and who gets paid, the non-exempt employees have to make up their time, et cetera. Well, there's I'm blanking on the name, but there's a law in the books that Massachusetts is one of the states that I think it's reporting law, that you have to pay people a certain number of hours if they've been called in, if they've shown up for work and then sent home, you have to pay them. And I think at the time when we had that entire discussion, we weren't aware of that. So I wanted to know whether or not that law pertained to us and pertained to, Massachusetts first, and whether or not it was in conflict with what we had in our personnel policy. So that's the types of things that, there were a couple of, I'd say there were probably 2 to 3 things like that were bigger in nature. The rest of them were spelling or procedural in nature.
Spelling. Okay. No, I just wanted to know the scope of review, if you will,
Yeah.
when you
It's
mentioned it.
not extensive, but it's important.
Okay.
I would think that, just to make sure that whatever redlining the town council has done remains in the spirit of which it was originally intended, we would just want to review that to make sure that it's not so black and white or it just changes the spirit of what was created and, what Tracy and the rest of the town administration may feel is off, so,
I also think that when we did create that document, we knew that there'd be a review every couple of years to update any of the sexual harassment policies or laws or links or anything that needed to be updated. So I think this is, not only are there a couple of things that came to light, but I think this is just a standard every
Timely,
couple of
yeah.
years that we're gonna be
Right.
reviewing.
Right. Any guidance in terms of the frequency with which a document like this should be reviewed and or updated?
So I've had a business and legal reports. I've had memberships or subscriptions to that. I don't know if anyone's familiar with that. but they would send out updates. And, you know, so you have your policy manuals, right, and they would send up updates, particularly for different issues, you know, or laws that change and things like that. And it was ongoing, like every month you would get updates for certain areas of your policy manuals. So I think, you know, you said every couple of years.
We created this document March of 2019, there's a copy in your binder, but it's been a couple of years, going on 3 years.
Yeah, yeah, so, I don't know, every year, every 2 years, it seems like, you know, that's a reasonable time frame for review. But it's cumbersome, you know, I mean, to get in there and, so the policy is in here,
Yeah, it's the last full document,
the gold one you said?
whatever the last,
Oh, this one.
that one.
Okay, yeah, they're cumbersome, you know, there's a lot here, and I applaud you. For
labor of
doing
love.
this,
Right,
yeah,
right.
reading through it and line by
Twice.
line, right?
Gracious.
Yeah, so thank you for the work that you do.
It was, like I said, it was a couple of main things that came to our attention, and the rest of it was just, I really wanted to just read through it again to see if there was anything in particular that needed to be just corrected.
Yeah, good,
So.
thank you, Diane. Anything else before we schedule the next meeting? Any other issues?
So I have one more comment on that. You know, our policies at Mass General Brigham are updated, you know, like, not on a regular schedule, but just as needed. And so I can certainly, you know, keep an eye out for anything that is new in our system, you know, that would be helpful to look at here and see if we needed to review it and update, you know, for our purposes.
We also have a membership in the Mass Municipal Association, and a lot of times they will send out things
Good.
that affect municipalities in particular.
Yep.
But, you know, certainly anything you come across, it's always great. That's one of the things that I think I'm not HR trained, I don't have a certification in HR, so that's one of the things that I continue to worry about, that we're keeping pace with the law and the things that we need to, so.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good.
Thank you. Okay, the fourth Monday in January is Monday the 24th, 4 p.m. Any issues with that date as of now?
Tentative issue is I may be Telegraph Hill in San Francisco on the
Okay.
24th. But that's not set in stone yet.
Okay. Anyone else aware of conflict on the 24th at 4 p.m.? And let's plug it in then, tentatively. We'll pencil it in for that date and time. January 24th at 4 p.m. John, obviously let me know as you go along if that's the case.
In the next couple of weeks.
One of the benefits of having Lynn join us is that we now have a little bit more flexibility from a quorum standpoint here, which is great. Our quorum is 4.
I believe we're writing down the word 22. Wow.
1:24 at 4 p.m. Is that good?
Fine with me.
Great.
Yes.
If there are no other issues, do I hear a motion to adjourn?
So move.
Second?
Second.
Any discussion? We are adjourned.